who we're gonna have up next. I think Jen and Joey are gonna have a quick conversation with you guys. But please, please, please take notes. Take notes of this because this is a brand new stud and she's getting a lot of things done. So this could be great for the new people, but this can also be great for the veterans here, right? Just to show you how simple it really is to get these things going. So let's give it up for Jen and Joey.
Hey guys, morning. How's everyone feeling? I appreciate the people who are on our team with videos on. We love that. Seeing everybody's awesome faces. So, man, Shondel's right. We have a really big treat. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm really very excited for you guys. Shondel, can you give me screen sharing ability, please? I'm really excited for you guys to hear from Joey because, and I have to say this, the only reason why Joey was being asked and so many people have requested her to train today, one, she's very coachable. Okay. She's never missed a meeting with me. She's never missed a training. She's busy, which you'll get into soon. And she's just very open to constructive criticism. And she's a teammate. She's a teammate. She's not a let me just listen to you, tell me what to do. No, she has her inputs too, and she's got a lot of skills that she came up with. So when you work with somebody, I heard there was two types of tired, right? There's when I talk to Joey, I get energized. Not that she gives me energy, but I don't get drained, if that makes sense. And Joey, when I talk to her, it's a lot of energy she brings. She brings to the table. She doesn't take from the environment, she gives to the environment. And what do I mean by two types of tires? The type of tire that you want is the one where you go to the gym, you work out, you had a great workout, you're tired, but you feel so good afterwards. The other type of tired, you get on the phone with somebody, they're like, oh, my day this. Yeah, my child, we had to go to the hospital, and my boyfriend, my husband, argument this, and mother this, and yo, then you get off the phone and you just gave them all your energy trying to motivate them, and it still didn't work. And you're just drained after you get off the phone. I have never felt that way with Joey. Never. And I hope she never feels that way with me either, But yes, you guys already know her credentials. So I just want her to kind of unmute herself, Joey, if you could, and just share your story, where you are before we get into Q&A, so you guys can know where her results came from and what her mentality is like.
So I'm unmuted. So good morning, everyone. I usually say good morning, sunshine. That's how I start every morning. It's a good morning, sunshine on social media to everyone. But my journey started, or at least I thought my journey started at 21. My mother passed away from stage 4 breast cancer when I was a couple of weeks shy of my 22nd birthday. And for me, I think the most memorable moment in her passing was the insurance agent. I remember, I don't remember very much after she passed. It's a blur, but I remember the insurance agent coming to my godmother's house to bring the paperwork for the beneficiaries to sign, which at that time were my older siblings. And now that I think back in hindsight, I think in that moment is when I learned the importance of life insurance. And I think I also grasped why the life insurance agent came to the house every month to collect the premium. We're talking about the 80s and 90s when they would come pick up the premium. So once the funeral was over, and I know from a child, I saw this man come every month to pick up the premium. I'm like, okay, I gotta start paying my own life insurance premium. Well, this is where my learning began. I called the company to take over the policy, and I almost dropped the phone when they told me my mother was paying $50 a month for a $5,000 policy. I kind of looked at the phone, and remember, this isn't cell phones. These are actual house phones. I'm looking at the phone like, are you kidding me? So I immediately called my State Farm agent and asked her for a quote. And once I got the quote from her for a term policy, I called the other insurance company back and I canceled the policy. And think about it. I was 22 at the time. My mother took this policy out when I was born. So my mother paid, when I added it up, my mother paid $13,100 in premiums for a $5,000 policy. And the surrender value, I got a $500 check. Right. Exactly. And I'm looking, I see some of your faces. I can't see everyone, but this is my face. Like, I got $500 and my mom paid $13,100 in premium. And then she had a policy on all three of me and my siblings. So 13,100 times 3, or a little more, because my siblings are a little older than me. So I was amazed at how redline that policy was. Like, wow, that she really, this just didn't work. So about 12 years after that experience, I was introduced to Primerica. And the irony in the introduction to Primerica was at the person who introduced me to it was my president of the union at that time. He's since retired, but that's who introduced me to Primerica. And I was very excited because I understood the concept of term, because that's what my State Farm agent had me get. But no one said the invest part. Like, it clicked, like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world. Like, I can just think back over the last 20 years, how much money I've blown instead of investing it. But I do invest at work. But I wish someone would have told me, buy the term now and invest now in your separate IRA from work. So I took the class Labor Day weekend that year. This was 2014. And that following week, my father got really sick. We had been dealing with him having dementia for the past 10 years. And it was full-blown Alzheimer's. So he ended up passing November. I didn't take the test until 11 months after taking the class, and I failed. Never cracked open a book or anything after that. I took it because I got an email that said, hey, you paid for this. If you don't take the class, you lose your money. Then I kind of shelved Primerica. I ran for president of my union a few months after my dad passed, but before I took the class. And then I became president. So in my mind at that time, I didn't think I had time to do this, to do anything else. I would just do a whole bunch of union work. I was so immersed in that work for the last 5.5 years. Then something happened this July, but I'm going to back up first. So last August, I took a course where I met Miss Caroline. And I only took the course because I paid for it. I kept putting it off. And I think this was my 4th time. And they said, Joey, if you don't take the course, you'll lose your money. So I took the course. I'm not going to lose my money. And I met Miss Caroline there. And we talked during the course or what have you. And when she told me she, was a part of Primerica, I was like, and I told her the story of what happened. I was like, one day I'm going to find the time and I'm going to come back. So let's get to that one day. That one day was this August 1st. August 1st, I woke up and realized that I had a 19-year anniversary at work. So I was thinking to myself, like, girl, you're going to be 42 next year. You'll have 20 years at this job and you have no pension because the state of Michigan is one of those states that got rid of pensions in the 90s. So, and I'll have a 17-year-old. So I said to myself, it's time to start doing what you want to do, not what you think you have to do. So I said, I think I've invested enough time in this job. And, we have a running joke at work that we work at a JOB, a just over broke. So I think I've invested enough time. So I called Miss Caroline, like, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready. That was a Saturday. So that Monday, her and Ian did my IBA. And I think that was August 3rd. August 4th, my background check was completed. I took my life license September 4th, which is Bay Day. Shout out to Jen. She loves Beyonce.
Yes.
But the blessing that I didn't know in disguise was meeting Miss Caroline in this hierarchy. I did go to a few meetings the last time that I did an IBA with that team. So here I am coming thinking that, oh, Primerica has changed a lot in 6 years. And I think it was maybe 2 months into my training that Jen is like, no, this is your hierarchies training. This isn't Primerica's training. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had started telling my friends, like, oh, my friends that were a part of Primerica before, in various capacities, I'm like, y'all gotta come back. And when I was telling her one day that I told some of my friends that, she's like, no, this is your RVP and your hierarchy that does this. So with Jen, as I started showing up to the work sessions and the QAs, Jen did a lot of work on my mentality because she talked about the tired. And I did come to her a lot. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so tired, because I worked 8 to 12. I was working 8 to 12 hour days during this process. And so she gave me a cheerleading pep talk story. I'll let Jen give y'all that story one day. And after she gave me that story, it's like, not that week, but within the next week or two, boom, tired is out of my vocabulary. Even now, if I go to say the word, I'm like, oh, if I say it, Jen is going to get me. She's going to get me. So I don't say it. And as I've been on this journey, which for me just started really August 1st, I've realized that with her working on my mentality mindset, that I was a very stressed union president. We represent about 8,000 public employees who work for the state, various school and local governments, and it was just consuming me. So I've called her after a few meetings I've had, like, I don't even really want to do a work session today, but I committed to it, so I'm going to do it. So she would do mentality work with me, which I really appreciate, because now it's transferring into my personal, professional life. And excuse me. And I appreciate the work sessions and the QA sessions and the journey that it's taken me on, because it's opened up a lot for me to even get to this point, because I didn't realize until she sent me this slide that I did 26 QAs and all of these things. Like, I just did it. Like, I appreciate and I know that we may get into some of this later, but I appreciate some of the things that she did to push me forward, even though she understood I had a commitment that I had to keep in the daytime.
Good job, Joey.
Yes.
I hope you guys got a lot from that story. I didn't want to stop her because it was getting so good. Don't you guys agree? Nod your heads, right? So I just want to say this, and Joey's going to talk a lot about her obstacles and things that could have been excuses for her. But the excuses you make are the excuses you take, right? She's a strong mother, single mother, one, and she had some things in place that needed to be changed, not just her mentality. So let's go with the Q&A really quick. We're gonna go back and forth, Joey. So
yes,
you wanted to go into insurance. So what stopped you from going with your past insurance agent, because you had a relationship with her for about 20 years at State Farm, versus sticking with us or switching to us?
So as I stated during the story, Primerica was introduced to me 6 years ago, and I understood the concept completely. So this time around, I actually learned how to read my insurance policies with Jen. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's not really what I said. I'm just giving the edited version. And I'm like, if who I think I'm very financial savvy, didn't understand what I was buying, how many people around me just didn't know or don't know something so simple, like, and it's all right there in writing. We just fail to read it, because with State Farm, I did have a term. I had a universal life on myself, and I had a reduced pay life on my daughter. So I had one of every product there.
And Joey asked the agent to send her the policies. And how long did it take you to actually receive, or did you not even receive your policies yet?
Received them yet. So my agent, she sent me some screenshots, and I'm like, what is this? So I finally called State State Farm's customer service. And from customer service, I found out they now have a life insurance customer service line. So you have to call them during business hours during the week to have them send copies of your policy. So I'm like, why is there so many obstacles to get a copy of my policy?
Yeah. So how quickly did you get in your first QA, Joey? Because outside of your own QA, because your own QA was done within 48 hours after our first or second meeting. So how quickly did you get on your first QA?
I think my first QA was August 16th. So it wasn't too long after I did my meetings with you.
So a week after you came in. So
yes.
You did her IBA and a week and some change. So normally we don't want to wait a whole week, guys, to get somebody on their first QA. The reason why I work with Joey is because, and this is something that I think everybody should write down. If you just build 10 to 15 hours with your new recruit, they become your friend. You become their friend. And people don't quit on friends, they quit on a boss. So because the next QA wasn't until the next week after our fast start meeting, I had to build a relationship with Joey 10 to 15 hours. So I met with her every 24 to 48 hours. So Joey, did you have any fears or concerns before your first QA or during the process?
Of course. Yes, I had concerns. I didn't know how my family and friends would receive me. But I do know with my first QA, which was my god sister, I know she understood the importance of life insurance because her mom passed a few years ago. And her mom passed about 2 years ago. And her brother passed 3.5 years ago. And her mother took the cash value out of her policy to pay for the son's funeral. So when it came time when her mom died, which was so unexpected, the rest of the kids had to get together and put money together to actually pay for her funeral. So I knew going in that she would understand the importance because she's experienced now twice in her 27 years, death really close together and the experience of having to pay for one out of pocket.
What did you use or what did you say to set your QAs, Joey?
Well, at first I used the character reference, which I was like, why she got me doing this? This is crazy. But then when it started working, I'm like, oh, there's a method to this madness. And then after using the character reference 3-way, we use the feather script.
And there it is, guys. So Joey was really coachable. She did the 3-way text like we always have taught Shondell and I and everyone else like Shay and everybody else on appointment setting. And it's really important that you just stick to what works. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. If it works, it works. Don't change it. So we use the character reference script 3-way text. And then Joey eventually started, using the feather script on her own. If your name is Trishan, she calls it feather, by the way. So, feather or feather, one of those, So if you can't read, it's okay as long as you follow the script.
Right.
Yeah. So Joey did steer away one time because she didn't look at the screen when I had it on. But every time she set QAs, I was always with her, just kind of monitoring, making sure she was following the script. Because every time she steered away from the script, the people on the phone would always, trip her up. Right, Joey?
Yes. And I still didn't get that one scheduled.
Yeah. So the one that she, kind of fumbled on a little bit still hasn't been scheduled. So that's a lesson to learn. So just out of time, you guys can screenshot this and then we'll move on to the next couple words. Next couple questions. So do you have a QA set goal for the week, Joey? And if so, what is it?
Yes, I have a QA set goal. I try to set at least 7 since you taught me that only 50% will show up. So 7 equals about 3 to 4 actually showing up. So I try to stick to at least 7.
Good. And how much time in your schedule that's free that do you really actually have? Because you mentioned you were working like 10 to 12 hour shifts.
Yeah. Free time. What's that? No. I don't really have free time being the president of the union. While we have 8,000 members, we have 110 union contracts. So I don't really have free time. Didn't really have free time. Excuse me. And also with Michigan being a battleground state, I had a lot of commitments during the election. So it's not that I had free time, I made free time.
Yeah, good job. So
Yeah.
what did you see most valuable in your QAs? Because you didn't know what was going to happen the first QA.
Most valuable, learning that, first of all, learning that a lot of my family and friends don't have insurance, or they don't have the right insurance. That was valuable. I think them asking the questions, I learned a lot, because I'm like, I would have never thought to ask that question, but that's a very good question to ask.
Okay. And while you were in these QAs, what did you do during the QA? Let's say the first couple QAs and then going for the next couple QAs. What was the difference in your role from the beginning to, I guess the last of your 26 QAs that you just did?
So my first QA, all I did was take notes. And I don't even think I realized until recently that all I did was take notes in my first QA. My second QA and after, I took notes and I started presenting. So the first, maybe number 2 through 4, I did the first 2 slides. I would also answer the question based on the slides Jen assigned to me. And I would ask for referrals while Jen was getting the quotes together. But she would get me off guard. She'd be like, okay, you did great on those slides, so add another one. And I'd be like, what? Now I gotta make time to learn a new slide. Okay. And then I'd just be like, okay.
So the first appointment, because you guys know, and Shondell knows, whoever is a trainer like consistently, you don't want them to just sit there listening to you, because you already know what you're talking about. The trainee is in training for a reason. So after the first QA, this is what I do with every trainee. Okay. This is how you know who you should invest your time with. When I said to the client, I said, 20 hours in the classroom is equal to 1 hour in the field. And this is really important for Joey's training, because she'll be doing the next 2 slides. And Joey would be like, what? And then the next appointment, I'll be like, Joey's going to be doing the next 4 slides. And Joey's going to be like, what? So every single time she'd be like, oh my God.
I at least waited for the debrief. I didn't do it in front of the client.
Right. So she started presenting immediately the second QA, guys, and every QA thereafter, she would do the next couple slides and the next couple slides. So did you do anything with me after the QA? I think you just answered that, Joey.
Yes, after each QA, we did a debrief. Jen would give me constructive criticism, as well as some praise, depending on the QA and how it went. I appreciate the feedback, and she would laugh at me sometimes. She would be like, you take criticism so well. I was like, well, in my daytime job, I always end the call with a member saying, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms? Like, you can't be better or do better if you don't know what the criticism is or where to fix it at. So I'm always up for constructive criticism.
And did you do anything in the off time? Or a better question, what did you use to learn the presentation?
I used a recording. Is it a SoundCloud recording?
No, it was a Zoom recording.
Oh, it's a Zoom recording. Okay, yes. I would have to listen to the recording and write out the information for each slide. I found the most helpful time for me, honestly, to write it out was right after we did trainings on Saturday morning, because that's when I didn't have any commitment. So I would sit there and write it out. And in hindsight, I actually appreciate that, because how dependent are we on slides and talking points? To actually have to listen to something, sit there and write it out, I'm like, oh, this takes me back to high school and college, where you have a recorder, you have a pen, you have a piece of paper, you actually have to write something out, and you retain better when you write it. So again, method to her madness.
So Gabe said, which Zoom recording? So what I did, because I found out, great teammates on our team, like Trishana, she still teaches her downlines before I take them in the field. So this is a teamwork thing. Trishana, like if I'm training Joey, right? Let's say Joey is under Miss Caroline. Miss Caroline will usually teach Joey the first 2 slides before Joey gets to me in the QA. That way I know that Miss Caroline knows the slides, right? Because I'm training Miss Caroline too. Miss Caroline teaches Joey. Joey gets the QA with me. I've never met Joey in my life, because once you start getting busy, you can't really teach everybody. things that really they can learn on their own. So, but if your downlines are not trainers yet, they've got to know something, learn something, do something, right? For their business, take some responsibility. So Miss Caroline teaches Joey. Now I know Miss Caroline knows the presentation because Joey got it from her, right? But then eventually, your non-trainers start becoming soloists, they start having appointments, and they may not have all the time between school or job or whatever to really sit down in the same time schedule as their downline, if that makes sense. So I got tired of trying to figure out everybody's schedule just to help somebody with a presentation. And I said, okay, there's got to be some other efficient way to do this. And Bruce always says, if you send an audio on SoundCloud to somebody or give them a CD to listen to, all they have to do is press play and put it into their CD player, tape record, whatever y'all use, right? Old school, new school, iPad, Beyonce. So if they don't listen to it and you ask them, what did you learn? Then that might not be the person you want to invest your time with. So I took that mentality and said, let me record myself and doing the QA on Zoom, because you can see the video, and send it to all of the brand new teammates after their first QA. So I would say, Joey, you're doing the next 2 slides. Now Joey's on edge because she's like, how am I going to learn it? I don't have the presentation. I'm not putting you on the Google Drive because you're not licensed. So I'm going to send you a Zoom recording of me. And because you hear me, you see me, the tonality, it's better than just a audio recording. So you have no excuse not to go through it and write down your script. So she did that. And that's how I knew from day one, oh no, this lady's going to be something big, and she used that recording and she just went through it between every single QA. And I just gave her directions and she was coachable. So Joey, did you get any objections or rejection and how you handle it? How did you handle it?
Yes, of course, I got rejection. When I would do the feeder calls, people would be like, well, what is it about? What is it? And I would just say, you'll learn during my training. Like, trust me, right? And I was able to handle it because I know these people. And in my circle, I'm the most financially responsible one. So I'm the one they come to anyway. So that gives me a lot of credibility with them. And some of them have been getting advice from me since I was 19. So I realized that I am the financial influencer in my circle.
Gotcha. We only have a little bit of time left. So this is pretty much the same question in 2. So Joey, what kept you motivated to keep going? Because not everybody sets, 26 appointments in 90 days, but it's really not a lot because that's only two QAs a week if you really divide it by 90 days. What kept you motivated to keep going on appointments and finding more people to do QAs with?
So as each QA happened, I started learning that my family and friends were either not insured, underinsured, or had the wrong type of insurance. And I said, not on my watch. Now that I know better, it's not going to happen on my watch. And for me, my parents passed away. While they didn't leave us money, they also didn't leave us jet. When both passed, they had a $10,000 policy. So we were able to bury them, but also not have any debt. So at a minimum, I've made a commitment to myself and those around me. You're not going to leave your family or your kids with debt. You should be able to be buried without somebody doing dinners or GoFundMes.
Great. So that concludes the questions we have so far. If you guys have questions for Joey, please text them to the chat because we're going to go through the do's and the don'ts. I'm so proud of you, Joey. I'm so excited because Joey closed her first app. It was a COD, but she still closed it on her own. And she has done an IBA or 2 on her own already. So she's slowly kind of coming into the soloist mode without me. And there's a lot of things that I can say about her that we don't have time for. But I mean, one thing I will note though that she didn't mention, this past whole month, guys, now one complaint has came from Joey and she had her whole house renovated. She had, just like Shaq, and she had to be living in a hotel for 30 days with her dog and daughter, right literally in the hotel, telling them to be quiet during the QA. And she had to live in a hotel. And some days she would have to go from the hotel to home to check on the contractors. But she would never be late for an appointment with me or work session, never late, not one time. And even if she felt she was, she would be on her Zoom on her phone, walking into the house or walking into the hotel just to make sure that she, kept her commitment. So really a great person of integrity. So let's talk about the do's real quick. I'm going to go through this.